Hey everyone, welcome to our Thompson School District Tech Odyssey class. This is the first screencast you should be watching and the first time you might be hearing my voice, but certainly not the last. This class is all online except for the one face-to-face, and a lot of it is going to be kind of communicating this way where you're watching screencasts. Some of you I have worked with before and know. Some of you I met when we were all starting out together several years ago now, and then there's a few of you in the class that I haven't met before, and so it's great to meet everyone or get to talk to everyone. Here's me if we don't know each other. This is on a particularly good day, the first day of school this year. So I am the media specialist right now at Loveland High School, and I wanted to do this class just so that people had more opportunities to get professional development credit that was kind of structured more around the time that they had and when they were able to do professional development. So keep in mind as this is going on kind of your thoughts about it and things you think are good and bad about it both, because if this works for people, it might be a great reason for us to pursue doing more of these types of classes. And I'll be really interested to know how things could be improved, and you'll of course get to say all of that in the evaluation at the end, but kind of keep that in the back of your mind as we go along. In the way of the class, I just wanted to take this time to not only introduce myself, but just briefly review kind of what's going on here. And so the way the course works is that you are going to be taking a look at a total of 12 screencasts. This one you're just going to be watching. You're going to watch 11 more that are via the TED-Ed platform that you now have registered for, that I requested you do so before you get started. All of the screencasts you'll be watching on TED-Ed are going to start with kind of a basic description of an internet tool that I think either has really great educational possibilities, that I've really used in class with a lot of success, all sorts of different things. And then I'll also talk a little bit about how I think it could be used in different settings or subjects, just to kind of help get everybody started thinking. And I just brainstormed these on my own, kind of based on what I know about the different subject areas. Certainly I didn't want to leave anyone out, and there's people in this class from just all ends of the school district, which I'm so excited about. So hopefully they'll help to spur your own ideas, but they're just kind of some basic suggestions to get you started thinking. And then the meat of the screencast, certainly the bulk of it, is on the basics of how to actually use the tool. You click here, you do this, you type here, just so people kind of get comfortable with how these things work. No screencast is longer than 15 minutes. Most of them are between 10 and 15 minutes. And so you'll watch this inside a TED-Ed lesson. You're going to be watching the screencast. And then as a function of TED-Ed, you are required to answer some questions about the video's subject, and that would be the web application, and generally kind of what you think you could use it for. Some multiple choice questions that are more about how it works, and then your thoughts on how you could implement it. And then additionally, there's a question in each screencast that's the same, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a little bit here. So you'll answer these questions. That's essentially what I'm using for the attendance for this class. So you go to TED-Ed, and I'll show you how you get there into the lessons. You're logged in, you watch the screencast, you answer the questions, and then I can see on my sort of teacher end that you've done this, and that's why I asked for your TED-Ed name. And then I can give you attendance credit for the sessions. There's another section of each TED-Ed lesson that's called Dig Deeper. That is where you will find some additional resources or other sites that are connected to what I showed you or could help you to implement it, articles or papers about how this is effective or how it improves student learning. These are only to help you. They're not really required reading. I just wanted to really try to be sure that everybody had what they needed to understand these and justify their use in the classroom and really think about that and be able to use them successfully. So that's what the Dig Deeper part is. And again, viewing the screencast and answering the questions, along with signing up for the application and a little bit of playtime, is kind of your attendance, and that will add up to the 45 minutes total for each online session of the class that was written into the fly. So that is an important point here. There is some playtime built into each session, so you can go and kind of take a look at it and just mess around with it a little bit and kind of become more comfortable, or in some cases you could probably create something to use the very next day because the tools are so wonderfully simple and useful. And then additionally, there is time built in for you to sign up if it's required or necessary. There's time for you to sign up for the application during the lesson, and you're asked to do that if it's appropriate in the introduction to the lesson. So you don't have to worry about doing any of that ahead of time. You'll be directed to do it as a function of the lesson. So speaking of that time, watching, and there's a typo here, sorry, there's 12 screencasts, including, and then this one additionally. Watching those and completing all of the TED Ed lessons adds up to 7.5 hours of work. There was an additional screencast that I had to add just because I couldn't talk fast enough about the different things, but the way that it is structured, you'll spend about 45 minutes each time, and it still adds up to that 7.5 hours for those of you taking the 0.5 credit. And then you will attend the first half hour of our only face-to-face meeting, which is on April 17th in the Loveland High School Library. That's a Wednesday. And really the first half hour will just be for some celebration and discussion of these tools, reflection on how this went and how you might be able to use those things. So those of you taking this course for 0.5 credit will be there on April 17th from 4:15 to 4:45. Those of you that chose the 1 credit option, you're doing a little bit of extra work, but I'm pretty confident that I have built in enough time for you to be able to do that very legitimately and successfully with the 1 credit being kind of acknowledged there. So you're going to do the first 8 hours that we've kind of discussed already, and then you have 6 hours built into this class of homework time to complete what you see in those 2 bullets. The first is a lesson plan. You can choose the format or template that you'd like to use, maybe depending on your school or how you typically write those kinds of plans, but it has to be written up somehow, and it has to be detailed enough that we really can get a sense of how you would use it, what the students would need, what you would do to put that web application in place, and what they were going to be doing with it if it was organized like that, what topic it was being used for in your curriculum, or how it was really specifically being implemented. We're just writing up a lesson plan about how you're going to use one of these. So that's one of the items that you'd be completing for the 1 credit. And then the other thing you'll do, so these 2 are separate, is create a completed and published TED Ed lesson. Now you can use a video that you've created, or you can use one that you found on YouTube. I don't want to give away TED Ed too much, but one of the really great things about it is that you can use any video on YouTube and turn it into a personalized lesson for your students that you can then see if they've completed, if they have accounts. And so the TED Ed lessons that you'll create can be either one. They can be for a purpose that is for a specific class that you teach, or they can be for working with parents or working with staff. So you can think of some different options there, but you have to complete a TED Ed lesson. And in the way of complete, our TED Ed lessons have an introduction, and yours will too. They have the video, of course, that part's required. If you want to make your own video, that is probably going to be done using Screencast-O-Matic, which is another one of the tools that you're going to learn about. So I would recommend those of you thinking about making your own video and then making it into a TED Ed lesson, as you'll see I've done for the class. You want to go ahead and take a look at Screencast-O-Matic early on so that you're ready to do that and work on it as you go along. But that is one of the tutorials everyone will be looking at, regardless of if you're using it for TED Ed or not. And then you're also going to be doing some questions. All of our TED Ed lessons have between 5 and 10 questions, a combination of multiple choice and open answer, and your TED Ed lesson should have some of both of those as well, unless it seems really appropriate to just do one or the other, and then of course you would just explain that. If you do multiple choice questions, and I hope you will, I do hope that they also have a video hint, so you're taking the full advantage of what TED Ed has to offer in your lesson. You'll also have a dig deeper section. You can choose kind of what that looks like, and I talk more about that in the TED Ed lesson, so you'll be able to think about that. But you will include that aspect and some final thoughts. So you really will have a complete TED Ed lesson, all flipped and published, so that we're able to look at it, and that's the other assignment that you're doing in your 6 hours. Again, I'm pretty confident that that's plenty of time, a lot of time to work with it, learn about it, play with it, make sure that you are happy with it, and that you'll be able to produce both those successfully in those 6 hours. And then the last final hour, because 8 and 6 is 14, is an extra hour on April 17th from 4:45 to 5:45, where we'll kind of do some show and tell and see what everybody came up with, and a little more talking about what we learned about those tools and how they can be implemented in our classrooms. In the way of how content will be delivered, you're already on the Wikispace because I've sent you there to watch this screencast. But there's the Wikispace address again. You just want to be sure to bookmark it or note it somewhere so you can get back to it, because that literally is the place where all these things are going to happen from. And that's where you'll get to each TED Ed lesson. You need to have completed all the lessons and probably your taxes by April 15th in preparation for our face-to-face on the 17th, so that I can go ahead and make sure everybody gets credit for having completed the class really quickly and everything gets all sewn up like we need it. And here is our Wikispace, our launch pad, if you will, for our class. And oddly enough, there's nothing right here, although you are watching the screencast that is now right here because I had to make it before I could put it here. But I do need to show you these things on the side about how you'll navigate. So home is where we're at right now, and then these are the lessons that you're going to be taking a look at. I put this in capital letters just to remind you, you need to be logged into TED Ed every time you complete a lesson so that I can see in my account that you've completed it and give you credit for it. When you click on these, it's going to take you to a new window, so it'll open up a new window for you. You can see up here that I'm already logged in. If it doesn't have your name up here, you need to click sign in. It'll take you away from this for a moment to sign in, and it should bring you right back. But if it doesn't for some reason, then you can just click back to the wiki and reopen it, and then it should show that you're logged in. But you have to make really sure, please, that you're logged in so that it reflects on my end that it's been completed. Here's my email address with any issues or questions. If you have any concerns or questions about what I explained about the credit options, that kind of stuff, of course you can email me about that too, or any issues or problems with any of the lessons. And these are all the lessons right here. You'll just click to each one as you go along. I'll look at my email every evening to make sure people's questions get answered as quickly as possible so that you're not waiting on me to do something or get into something. There's not really much order to this except for Lesson 1 and Lesson 2, which focus on TED Ed and how it works, and we really need to have that basis to be able to move forward in the class. But once you've completed those two, you can do the other ones that you see here in any order you like. Whatever intrigues you or one that you think might be useful to you this very semester, that's totally up to you. You can watch them in any order you want, and you can finish this in a weekend, or you can work on it, every Monday to get finished. Whatever you'd prefer. You just have to be done by April 15th. Here are the URLs for all of the websites that we're using collected in one place, just so that you have them. And then they're often included in the TED Ed lesson as well, but this is just for your personal use. And then finally, this is what I was referring to in the sense of that final question that appears in each of the lessons. As you all know, we are piloting a new evaluation system that is the product of Senate Bill 191 and new educator effectiveness laws. And so this page gives you a way to look at the different standards and elements. There's Standard 1, Element A, and then we get to Element B, which has different parts for all teachers, elementary, secondary. Here's Element C of Standard 1. Goes through screenshots of every different standard with each element. And then additionally, here's a PDF of the whole rubric so that you can use that for reference if you'd rather. Either one. But the purpose of it is so that each time you watch a TED Ed lesson, you're asked to just pause and think about how implementing this tool or using it for your own personal growth helps you to get to those accomplished or exemplary areas of part of the evaluation, or is a good artifact for why you are accomplished, proficient, or exemplary in one of these areas. And so taking a little bit of time for us to think about that, I think, is really useful for us as professionals and can help us to kind of hone in on what the new tool is asking us. You'll just talk in your question about which one specifically you think it relates to, like Standard 1F or whatever, and how you think it relates. So it is pretty brief, but you're just asked to think about that each time. So that's about it. Again, thank you so much for taking the class, and I'm really excited. If you need anything from me at all, of course, you can email it anytime. your first assignment, essentially, your first 45 minutes is watching this screencast and then completing lesson 1 only of our Tech Odyssey. So if you want to navigate over there right now and complete the lesson, you're on your way to having finished your first session. Good luck, and let me know if you need anything.